think wins in a fight, you or Prime Floyd?
Me?
No questions?
Why would you think that I would say Floyd?
That there's not another guy in the world that can beat you right now. That's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd. I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao because he got these opportunities so late.
This is the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late.
Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years, but no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fight.
Terence Crawford fired back with confidence at Floyd Mayweather's claim that he could beat him. Crawford boldly declared that he would defeat Mayweather, even in his prime, and reminded fans that history will remember him as the fighter who never ducked a challenge. He pointed out that no one can accuse him of avoiding opponents, because he's always stepped into the ring with whoever dared to face him. And if a Mayweather fight were ever on the table, Crawford made it clear he wouldn't back down from that either.
Going like this, and then that's when Floyd started taking over.
What do you want your legacy to be like when your career is all said and done? What do you want people to remember you for?
Oh man, everybody's asking me the question. I always be like, man, it's whatever it's their opinion. Everybody gonna have a different opinion of Terence Crawford, but one thing they can't say is that I ducked anyone. I fought everyone that was available to fight.
Dan Raphael believes Terence Crawford has reached a point where he doesn't even need another fight to cement his legacy. According to Raphael, Crawford has already done it all, cleaned out divisions, unified world titles, and dismantled elite opponents without ever showing a crack in his armor. At this stage, Raphael argues, it's no longer about proving anything. It's about protecting the legacy Crawford has built and enjoying the recognition he's earned. In his view, Crawford's resume has already exceeded every expectation, and chasing unnecessary fights would add little to his place in history. His sheer dominance in recent years is more than enough to ensure he will be remembered as one of boxing's all-time greats.
Do now, like what's the next thing that he does? Because you look around and go, is the only way that he really gets that ultimate chance if he goes up again? And do you say, what do you do?
I don't quite. Yeah, I mean, he was asked those questions at the press conference. He made two things clear. One, he's not going back to 154, and I say that because some people suggested about possibly pursuing a fight with Ennis, who has his debut in the weight class coming up.
Yeah,
that's probably unlikely. He's not going to go back down in weight. And I mean, no disrespect to Ennis, but Ennis is a guy that's known within the diehards of boxing. He's not in any way known beyond the boundaries of the hardcore boxing fan. So I don't know if that makes sense for a lot of different reasons for him. Not to say I wouldn't, as a boxing fan, enjoy watching the fight. So, but I don't think he's going back to 154. He was asked about like a Benavides at 175, and he acknowledged like that guy's really big. I mean, that's maybe a bridge too far. He already went up to 2 weight classes to fight Canelo at 68. So it feels to me like he can either stay at 168 and defend this championship and look to the same types of names that were being thrown around as the types of guys that would have been in the mix for Canelo had he won the fight. And, he's going to have mandatories. Obviously, that's the first thing they'll have to look at. I mean, I don't know if he's not going to necessarily keep the belts if he's forced into a mandatory. He doesn't need the belts at this point, but there might be something appealing to him. For example, and Billy had a great fight on the undercard, although he's been ordered to fight a rematch in that fight. That was, fight of the year.
The emphatic way Terence Crawford dismantled Canelo Alvarez has ignited fierce debate in the boxing world. Fans and analysts immediately drew comparisons to Floyd Mayweather's win over Canelo. While Mayweather defeated a younger, less experienced version of the Mexican star, Crawford dominated a far more seasoned Canelo, leading some to argue that Crawford's performance was superior. Yet, as Luke Thomas pointed out, career timing tells a different story. Mayweather rose to superstardom much earlier, taking on elite opponents while still in his 20s. Crawford, by contrast, spent years in the shadows due to limited promotion and recognition, meaning his prime moments came later. Because of that, Thomas argues, even if Crawford's victory was more spectacular in execution, it doesn't automatically elevate him above Mayweather historically. In boxing, context and trajectory matter just as much as the result.
class. One guy with outrageous skill offensively and defensively, simply making another very good fighter look lesser than. This was the other part. The people who watch MMA and then try to watch boxing through an MMA lens, I don't know what to tell you. You're actually missing the point. The kind of specific details and the depth of the technical ability far surpasses even what you can get at the highest level of MMA, because they don't have that level of skill. There is no equivalent in MMA to Bud Crawford, because there cannot be. Bud is the most talented boxer I've seen since Mayweather.
I think Crawford is way better than Floyd Mayweather.
To be fair to Floyd, he obviously had hand problems in his whole welterweight run, and it's why he took that long stretch off in 2007, 2008, 2009 area, and Floyd's brilliance to be able to be just as great in some ways at that age. We're not here trying to dunk on Floyd. When you get a victory like this, right now, straight up, Luke, you could say that there's not a welterweight, junior middleweight, or maybe even super middleweight. When you could say over like a 4-division stretch, Bud, cut down to any of these weights, that there's not another guy in the world that can beat you right now, that's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd, I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao, because he got these opportunities so late.
This is the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late. I find Bud to be as defensively sound as I've ever seen a fighter. He can find you. There's nowhere to hide with him.
Like Floyd, he has such control over the terms in there. It's just...
Buddy McGirt was one of the loudest voices praising Terence Crawford after the Canelo fight, calling it nothing short of complete domination. In McGirt's eyes, Crawford seized control from the opening bell, shutting down Canelo's trademark aggression and never once letting him dictate the pace. The performance was so decisive, McGirt argued, that there's no reason to even consider a rematch. The gap in skill was clear for the entire world to see. More importantly, McGirt stressed that this win finally delivered the legacy-defining moment Crawford had been chasing. By dismantling a fighter of Canelo's stature, Crawford cemented his greatness with a signature victory that fans and historians will never forget. For McGirt, Crawford has nothing left to prove. His chapter is written, and the domination of Canelo will forever stand as proof of his place among boxing's true legends.
Yes.
Like, what fight were they watching?
Right.
I mean, it's. I don't know, man. I don't know what some of these guys be doing in this game, man. Some people, in situations like that, they should ask them, listen, just turn in your license, bro. Because there's no way in hell the fight was that close.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. It's just, it's not fair. It's not fair. You get a guy like Terence got here and dominate from beginning to end, and then you find out he needed the last 2 rounds to win. That's scary, man.
It is. And you see how you just mentioned scary. Now, a lot of people are saying, buddy, that type of beating, he's not going to want a rematch. But looking at those scorecards and knowing that, hey, you wasn't too far behind, even though, he did mention that, he's better than Mayweather. But I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you feel like that was such a beating that Canelo wouldn't want a rematch?
No, I think that, in all honesty, personally, I think that Canelo's at that stage in his career right now, that it's a rematch he don't need. He don't need it. You know what I mean? What we saw that night, that's the stage Canelo's at right now. I mean, he's fought everybody, he's did everything, but, you know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He lost it to Terence fair and square, and he passed the torch. So if you're going to have another fight, cool, but you don't need to. You have nothing. He has nothing to prove. He fought Terence and nobody else would.
And analysts compare Terence Crawford to Floyd Mayweather. The conversation often turns to the mental side of the game, an area many believe gave Floyd his decisive edge. Crawford is praised as a technical genius, capable of switching stances seamlessly, making mid-fight adjustments, and breaking down opponents with surgical precision. But Mayweather, they argue, brought something more: psychological control. Floyd didn't just outbox opponents, he outthought them. He manipulated their emotions, forced them into mistakes, and made even elite fighters abandon their game plans. That aura of control, both before and during the fight, is what many historians point to as the key difference between the two. Crawford's skill set is undeniable, and he stands closer than anyone to Mayweather's level. Yet, it's Floyd's mastery of psychological warfare that
Hearns. I've seen Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Like I've seen all of those things, and those fights were wars. Floyd Mayweather is the best boxer I've ever seen. He's the most skilled boxer I've ever seen. Bud, and this is just my opinion, is the baddest man I've seen wear boxing gloves. And here's why I say that.
RC.
Here's why I say that. Bud is extremely skilled, right? Yet not as skilled as Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather made people look foolish, right? And so if I had to say who's the greatest I've seen, and Bud said it, right? The best of an era and the best of an era, it's Floyd. But when I watched Bud against Canelo, there was this extreme skill on display, and there was a level of crazy that's different. There was a level of, and Floyd's extremely tough. Go back to Shane Mosley and the 2 punches he landed early in the fight and the way that he embarrassed him. I'm not saying that Floyd's not tough. Floyd's not a bad man. But there was domination inside that ring we saw this weekend. Yeah. And there's no fear in him in the way that he's attacked gaining notoriety. Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years. But no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fights and the better fights. And he was arrow spin.
For more than a decade, Terence Crawford has displayed his brilliance in the ring, yet his quiet demeanor and refusal to chase the spotlight often left him overlooked. Unlike fighters who build their fame through trash talk and theatrics, Crawford chose to let his fists do the talking. That earned him the respect of boxing purists, but it cost him mainstream attention during the prime of his career. Only now, after statement wins over Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez, is the wider public beginning to recognize just how great he truly is. But critics argue that this spotlight may have come too late. At this stage, Crawford is closer to the end of his career than the beginning, and while he can still add to his resume, the window for cementing a lasting mainstream legacy is shrinking. It leaves many wondering, how different would his story have been if the boxing world had embraced him sooner?
Canelo cemented him on what is the two-headed monster that marks the greatest of the 2000s. Floyd Mayweather is on that, and Bud Crawford is right next to him. I don't think we have to pick on who's better. I think they both dominated their era.
Canelo's defeat at the hands of Terence Crawford cemented Bud's place among the true giants of this era. In fact, many now describe the 2000s as belonging to a two-headed monster, Floyd Mayweather on one side, and Crawford right next to him. And perhaps the real takeaway is that we don't need to choose who's better. Both dominated their eras in ways that define greatness, but this is where tension brews. Mayweather has long been criticized for refusing to acknowledge other legends, even shying away from giving Muhammad Ali the recognition most fans agree he deserves. Now, with Crawford achieving feats that place him on nearly equal ground, the questions about Floyd's ego have resurfaced. That Crawford's emphatic win over Canelo has sparked conversations that put him in the same historical breath as Mayweather, a comparison Floyd is notoriously protective against. Critics argue that Floyd thrives on being seen as the one and only standard of boxing excellence. When another fighter begins to share that space, it bruises his pride. To many, that's why Mayweather seems reluctant, even jealous, to celebrate Crawford's rise, creating tension over how he responds publicly to Bud's growing legacy.
On par with Floyd Mayweather Jr., and you know Floyd Mayweather Jr. doesn't like that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is one of the biggest egos in the sport, so much so that he could not find a way to give Muhammad Ali credit as being a top 5 fighter and claimed that Roberto Duran sits above Muhammad Ali, right? Why? Because Floyd wants to be better than Muhammad Ali. He completely redid his image when he became Money Mayweather to pretty much copy from calling himself the GOAT, calling himself TBE, right? Whole thing. Very disrespectful of Muhammad Ali when he was coming up, when after Floyd Mayweather Jr. wound up being at the top of the sport. So now that Terence Crawford has firmly placed himself at the top of boxing, and not just as the pound for pound fighter right now, many people are saying, hey, shouldn't he be considered one of the greatest fighters of all time? Isn't this a realistic conversation we can have? So what does that do? That butts Terence Crawford right up against Floyd Mayweather. So when Floyd was asked a series of questions, right, because Floyd is now has a fight coming up, I do believe it maybe in January. I think it may be in January or early 2026, I believe is the time frame, where Floyd Mayweather Jr. is going to be fighting Mike Tyson in I believe.
Sean Porter emphasized that Crawford's willingness to embrace adversity is what truly sets him apart. While many fighters carefully navigate around the toughest challenges, Crawford deliberately sought them out, determined to prove he belonged among the very best. That fearless mentality, Porter noted, is what has elevated him into the all-time greats conversation. Crawford's legacy won't just be remembered for his skill, but for the resilience and determination that defined his journey.
Not when he wants you to. And you know what I mean? That's how it was.
I know, I'm sorry. I know this is bad production, but we don't need you to turn that phone to the side. I know I'm thinking about Happy right now. I'm like, he know better. That's better. That's better. Go ahead, Ant. Go ahead.
Hey, but you know how, man, me and Sean, we know you personally. I had people telling me, nah, man, this is just a money grab. He just went up there for the money. I said, man, if you know this dude, but you mentally, bro, I put you in the same category as Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. I'm like, he wants to be great. Y'all want the money, but want to be great. Where that come from, man?
It's just me, you know what I mean? Like, I think all the greats is just born with that competitiveness, you know? And like I said, you know, a lot of people, they didn't want me to accomplish the feat over Canelo. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that it wasn't possible. They didn't want me to be the one to do it because I was the one that they was blackballing for years. I was the one that they said, you know, wasn't gonna make it to this table. I was the one that they said couldn't sell. I was the one that they said, you know, made bad business decisions. So of course they don't want me to be the one to make it to the top and then conquer.
That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
All odds, because now it's a slap in the face to every person that ever wrote a bad article about me, about anything.
Probably the best fit of all.
And a lot of people get mad at me because I said, when it comes from pound for pound that I ever seen it in my lifetime, ever, I got Floyd and I got you. They're like, well, what about blah, blah, blah? I said, this is who I seen. I seen Bud. I seen Floyd. I can't talk about what happened in the 20s and the 40s. I can talk about what I seen now. Do you feel like, Bud, you stamped your legacy and we're going to forever say, well, you could have beat this person, you could beat that person? You feel like you did it?
Of course. It's definitely going to be, it's already written in the history books. Yeah. Like before, everybody was already comparing me and saying things like that. But hold on. Yeah.
I know. Good job.
Okay. But now, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, so now he proving himself with a bigger, stronger guy in his weight division that he was undefeated in, that he was undisputed in, you know? So those things like that, you know, you can't ignore.
Hey, man, how do you allow people not to put their limitations on you? Because when I gave motivation last week, I told them about like how you motivated me to start my own company. And I remember you been in my living in my kitchen motivated me to start my own company. How do you allow no one else to put their limitations on you?